Before the heist. Before the mission, before Zimuzor Anyanwu ever set foot on American soil, there was a people so ancient, so rooted, so fiercely alive, that even centuries of war, betrayal, and deliberate erasure could not wipe them from the face of the earth. A people whose story does not begin in a classroom, or in a government document, or in the pages of a colonial history book, but on the shore of a vast and shimmering coastline, where a man stepped off a boat, looked out at the thick green forest stretching endlessly before him, threw his arms wide open, and said, "At last. The land of the sun." His name was Eri. And what happened next would shape the destiny of millions. But before we go there, ask yourself this. What do you actually know about the Igbo people? Not what you were taught in school. Not what you read in a headline. What do you truly know about one of the most resilient, most widely traveled, most intellectually fierce groups of people this world has ever produced? Because here is what the textbooks will not tell you. The Igbo people did not just survive history. They helped write it. They are called Umachukwu, children of God. Children of the Most High. A name that is not a metaphor, not a poetic flourish, but a declaration of identity so deep it is woven into the very language they speak. In Igbo cosmology, there is no separation between the divine and the human. God is not a distant figure sitting behind clouds. God is in the soil beneath your feet, in the river that feeds your farm, in the cry of your newborn child. This is not superstition. This is a sophisticated spiritual framework that predates every foreign religion that ever arrived on African shores. And it all begins with Eri. According to the African's West African Genesis, a text that Zimuzor would one day read by candlelight in a small hostel room, a text that would change the entire direction of his life, Eri was a man of divine origin. Some accounts call him the son of Gad, the seventh son of Jacob, a figure whose lineage traces all the way back to the ancient Near East. He arrived by water. He arrived with his people. And he arrived with a mission, to find the land of the sun, settle it, and build something eternal. When Eri's scouts returned from the thick forest with their report, there was no hesitation. The land is good. There is water. There is soil. There is life. The first man said. Then we stay. Go back before the evening sacrifice. Tell no one what you have seen. Eri instructed. And if we are followed, the first man asked. Eri looked at him. The kind of look that does not need words. They were not followed. What Eri built in that forest was not just a settlement. It was the seed of a civilization. Over generations, that seed grew into something extraordinary. Towns and villages spread across the southeastern corridor of what we now call Nigeria. Trade routes opened. Art flourished, bronze castings so refined, so technically advanced, that when European explorers encountered them centuries later, they refused to believe Africans had made them. They looked for another explanation. There was none. The Igbo had always been this capable. Their system of governance was unlike anything else on the continent. While other kingdoms bowed to emperors and kings, the Igbo operated on a system of radical democracy. Every man had a voice. Every elder had a seat. Decisions were made by consensus, by community, by the collective wisdom of the people gathered under the great Iroko tree. There was no single ruler who could not be challenged. There was no throne that could not be questioned. A man who rules alone rules badly. And a people who follow without thinking, follow into ruin. This was the philosophy. This was the foundation. And then there was the concept of Chi, your personal God. Your divine counterpart. The Igbo believed that every human being came into this world with a Chi, a spiritual companion, a higher self that walked beside them and guided their fate. Your Chi was not your excuse. Your Chi was your responsibility. If a man failed, He had not consulted his chi if a man succeeded, he had aligned himself with his chi, had listened to the quiet voice that spoke to him in the still hours of the night. I used to think it was just superstition, Zimuzor pondered, until he read the African's West African Genesis. Until I understood that everything I thought I knew about myself, about my people, about where we came from, was a version of the truth designed to make us feel small. And this is the part that matters. Because when a people do not know their history, they do not know their power. When a people do not know their power, they are easy to exploit. Easy to manipulate. Easy to convince that they are less than what they are. The Igbo people had been systematically cut off from their own story, by colonialism, by religion, by a school curriculum written by people who had everything to gain from their ignorance. Mr. Namdi understood this. That is why, when a young student named Zimuzor asked a question that nobody in that classroom dared to ask, Mr. Namdi did not answer him in public. He waited. He watched. And when he was sure, when he saw in Zimuzor's eyes that particular hunger that cannot be faked, he handed him a book. In there contains all that you need to know about the Igbo people. And what needs to be done. What needs to be done. He muttered it to himself, turning the book over in his hands, reading the title again. The African's West African Genesis. It sounded like the beginning of something. It felt like the beginning of something. He had no idea. He went back to his room that night and read until 3 in the morning. He read about Eri. He read about Omachukwu. He read about Chi, and the Irako tree, and the bronze casters of Igbo Akwu, and the trade routes, and the democracy, and the philosophy, and for the first time in his 20-something years of life, Zimuzor Anyanwu felt something crack open inside his chest. Not pain. Not grief. Something brighter than both of those things. Pride. The kind of pride that does not boast. The kind that goes very quiet, very still, and then begins to burn. Because here is what he had just discovered, his people were not the losers of history. They were not the defeated, the colonized, the forgotten. They were Omachukwu, children of God from the land of the sun. And the sun, by its very nature, cannot be put out. But something was coming for them. Something that would test every single thing that made them who they were. Something that would scatter them across the earth, strip them of their land, their money, their dignity, and dare them to survive. It was called the Nigeria-Biafra War. And it was about to begin. If episode 2 has you feeling something you cannot quite name, that is exactly what this story is designed to do. Subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss episode 3. Where we go deep into the political betrayals, the broken promises, and the moment an entire people realized that war was no longer avoidable. Drop a comment below. Had you heard of Eri before today? Did you know any of this? Tell us. And if this story deserves to be heard by more people, share it. Because some stories are too important to stay small. We'll see you in episode 3.